So today I'm just going to go through the giveaway. So the giveaway was video ideas and suggestions, but it actually raised a lot of good topics that I might just be able to quickly cover now, but I might do further videos on some of them, but at least we can get a bit of a brief overview of some of them, because people had some really good ideas. If I switch over to maybe this one. Oh, I'm hiding off the screen, so that camera vision is not that great, but that's alright. It's better if I'm not here anyway. So you can see here, that was the last giveaway. Here's the current one. We've got 32 comments on it, 130 plus. There's a couple that put it in outside of this little pin post kind of thing, which is fine. And yeah, people brought up some really good ones. Out of these 32, I'd say we've got 32 good ideas. So, well, 31, I think this counts as one. So yeah, there were a lot of topics on here that I like to demonstrate today. So I thought this one was good. One that I actually didn't think about too much, but since being asked, I've had about a week to research the topic, and we've actually come to a lot of knowledge. So tolerances. At work, I work with tolerances all the time just because of my engineering kind of work, and when we're manufacturing things, we've always got tolerances. Most of the time they're incredibly tight, especially if I'm working on some high-end equipment. So tolerances, I didn't actually think about it much, but for calibrated stones like a 6x4, they don't always fit a 6x4 setting. And I've had a look. So Gar here just wanted to know what the maximum tolerance allowed is. And it's not really a set in stone thing. So I found one really good website, and I'll put links to all the websites that I used today in the description if I remember. Hopefully I do. Hopefully I don't just close this window and all my tabs are gone. But this one here from Kernocraft talks about a lot of sizes and gemstones and calibrating and tolerances and all that kind of stuff. It seems like an actually really good website. I started getting lost in some of the tutorials. But they kind of go with, it seems to be a tolerance depending on the size of the stones. The larger the stone, obviously, the greater the tolerance. It doesn't seem to be overly strict. People use carats as well. They say like under a 1 carat stone, it should have less than a 0.1 millimeter tolerance. But like they say here, they talk about you can go all the way down to 0.01, which is what I work with at work a lot of the time. And for that, you've got like really precise lathes and all of that kind of thing. So for jewelry stuff, that takes a long time, like a really long time. So you just pay through the roof for it. And honestly, talking to jewelers and stuff, they don't care that much. If they're using a bezel fitting, they've got a lot of tricks where they can run along the inside and just thin down the metal or bend it, flare it out a little bit. Or they don't typically trim down the stone because the stone is calibrated. They don't want to mess with that. So the tolerances really depends on who's cutting the stone, what you're using it for, how much allowance there is for some variation in your actual settings. So on the other hand, what I personally do, because we're working with opals, sure, with a diamond, maybe, yeah, just trim it down a little bit. Or if you're working with a ruby that's just one clear color, yeah, whatever, trim it down. A lot of these stones, who cares? This is like a moonstone, just trim it down, it doesn't matter. But for opal, I go with a more blackopaldirect style. So if we switch over to his, you can see here, he doesn't just say 10 by 6. He says 10 by 6.3. I like this 0.3. This is what I would suggest for anyone wondering about this, specifically for opal. If you've got a boring stone, who cares? Just trim that 6 mil off that edge and that edge. Take it in another half. Really make it fit your stencil. But for opal, I prefer to just do this. Just list it exactly as it is. The jeweler still knows exactly what they're doing, or you know exactly what you're doing. I mean, blackopaldirect goes further and has the depth, has the height of the stone as well, but that doesn't really help too much just because you don't know if it's high dome or low dome, though he probably explains it. God, his stones are good. Damn. It's a nice stone. I don't know what's going on with this picture, but you guys see... I see diagonal scratches across the face. Yeah, so he just says medium dome. For some people, medium dome means one thing, and maybe someone else will look at this and say it's actually a bit of a high dome compared to what they're used to. So I like this. So if you're calibrating cab, maybe just for opal at least, just detail the variation from the 10 by 6. Just don't sell it as a 10 by 6. Just chuck that 0.3 in, or 10.1. whatever it is. Just measure it out a bit better, because if we switch over to my camera over here, if you get a nice pair of calipers, you can measure this down to very precise mils, or inches if you're inclined to go that way. So that's my thoughts on this topic just here. So the tolerances in calibrated stones, you can be really strict. I had a chat with one of my favorite genius opal cutters, and that is Steve, the person that made the Pearl Opal. Check out my video on Pearl Opal if you don't know who I'm talking about. He is an absolute mental genius. We had a good chat last night because he loves vacuum chambers, and I've built a couple space chambers lately. He, on the other hand, he nails his tolerances like you wouldn't believe. If you have a look at his Facebook, you'll see that he can manage to get these identical, like that. I think he said, I don't want to bring it up on screen because it's private messages, but I think he was saying he can easily do within 0.1 mil. It was like really, really tight. And you can also do it that way. You just have to sacrifice a bit of extra material. Red Eye Stones, hold up. You build space chambers. I do build space chambers. No, I don't have a channel for it, but there'll be publications and stuff, because that's a bit of a uni project, part-time, well, an additional fixed term contract for that for me. The next topic I had in mind is this one. Opal Gemmy Art had 6 suggestions, all of them very good. But one that I really wanted to show off here, because I can get it up on screen, is the photographing opals. So I've got an entire video on that. Well, I've got a couple, but only one actually decent one. So the number one most important thing, if I can get this across, the number one most important thing is the light. And I will show you exactly why. This is a very unusual choice of website for me to use to show this off. So this is a company, not sponsored, nothing like that. They've just made some little programs on their website that are really useful. So waveform lighting. They specialize in ultra high CRI LED lighting, and that's really what you want. So if I go across to my camera, so this light that I'm using here right now is a LED light panel, and I've tuned it to know exactly what the color temperature is and all of that kind of thing. But the number one most important thing for opal, let's just get out what do I have? Why not? I don't want to handle these too much right now, but the most important thing to have to get this color to come out, because people are always amazed when you can get videos that actually show what the stone looks like, because it is quite difficult. To get these colors, you need to have a high CRI. It's just a measure of how many colors are there, and I can show you the effect that it has on stones and everything. Yes, this is the Ethiopian opal from Mike, who is somewhere in the chat. I swear I sure saw him turn up. Yeah, so you literally just need light. If you can get light, you can take a good picture, a good video with like a garbage camera. So if we go to natural daylight, they've got it here. If you look at this scale right here, you can see that it breaks down into different kind of, we'll just say different colors. It's a bit more complicated than that, but different colors. And you can see daylight, you've got everything. The sun is ridiculous. The sun is so damn good at showing off color. Without it, we would be living in a black and white world. Actually, it'd just be fully black, no white. So these guys are producing their ultra high CRI panels, so the 99s, and you can see here, you're already starting to lose red. Everyone complains about losing red in their opal videos and photos. This is exactly why, and it'll become even more obvious. If we go to something like 80 CRI, look what's happened. So we can always see a lot of our, like kind of our blues, a lot of our greens. Greens are typically a very easy color, but once you go to 80 CRI, look at that. You're going to have no red. You're going to have absolutely no red in your stone. You might be able to get a little bit of orange, but your red is just shot. It's completely gone. By the time you get to 90, you're better, but it's still not good. This is still not enough for opal, especially if you've got any of your warmer colors. It's just terrible. You'll get your greens, you'll get your blues, and everyone says, oh, I swear there's some red in my stone, but it's not coming up on camera. It's just because they're not using a light that is good enough. So fluorescent light, you lose all red. So I showed that off in a really early video that I did on the channel, and I used the fluorescent light. That's just my ceiling light in the shed. No red, absolutely no red. You just can't get it. And then you can get some RGB LEDs, and then you can start like purposely adding red. But at the same time, then your color ratios go off, and you've got all these colors. Some are favored, some are not. You start losing all sorts of stuff. And if you really want to see the effect of CRI, if we go here, we'll keep the temperature, the color temperature, somewhat in the middle. You look at this picture on the right, and if I just, oh, I don't think this is actually set right. Yeah, that's better. So think of this as sunlight. I've just maxed out the CRI. I don't know if that's set to 99 or 100. I think it would be 100. So you can see here, all of these little color palettes, they look good. The reds look really good. Watch what happens if I tweak the CRI down just a bit. See that difference? Back up. Back down. Even with the YouTube live stream compression, you should be able to see, especially if you focus on the reds here. Sunlight. A few notches down on CRI. Red's gone. You can see this green card. This green card is strong. Green is easy. You go to a really low CRI. Look at that. It's basically a black and white picture, but you're seeing the greens. A little bit of the blues. But you go to sunlight or a really good quality LED panel, you can just creep these reds back. But even just dropping a point or two, already when you get to 95, people say 95 plus is a good light panel. Really, you will get some of the red in the opal, but it'll almost look like it's a slight flash of red. You're not going to have that persistent showing red color that you will from a high CRI. So this is actually a really, really good website, just from a company that makes LED light panels. There, you can see here, natural daylight. Like, we can't even see some of the higher and lower wavelengths that the sun will put out, but yeah, these guys do a pretty good job for most of the visible spectrum in terms of their stuff. But yeah, by the time you drop to a 90 CRI, your waveform, it's just dead. It's already just dead. But blues are really strong all the time. You get that greens. Sometimes people say it looks a bit yellow, but it's actually a red bar. That's because the yellow is still pretty favored under most LEDs. And the first thing to always go are your reds and purples. But purples are lucky because you can sometimes see the blue of the purple. It's a little bit weird. Physics is fun like that. But yeah, this site, if you ever need to explain it to someone, this site is by far the best, and I will make sure to include it in the description so you guys can play around with it as well. It's actually really fun to just move a slider bar and see it exactly. Do you normally buy your rough opal in person or online? That is also a very good question. I typically, well, the only person I buy in person off currently is Julian. And that also makes him probably my favorite seller, just because I can see it in hand and I get to have a look at it. It is always better to buy with it in hand. And that actually leads on to another thing that someone was saying. They wanted me to discuss lights and opal. So when you want to check the bar and you get the fancy little lights or whatever, I'll show you what I do. It's not fancy at all. You can get away with a normal kind of pen light like this, but I find that this one's not as bright. I've got one of those, like, if you shined it in someone's face in the middle of the night, they would be completely blind. So it's an incredibly bright light with even 2 settings, because the first one is way too bright to use on a normal basis. But if you do have a big, strong torch, all you need to do is something like this, where you cover it up with your fingers and then grab your stone and just shove it into like a crack between your fingers. It actually does an incredibly good job, and you can see right through most stones. Of course, it's a lot better when you turn off your LED light panel and you can see everything. But yeah, that's all I do. You don't have to go out and hunt down the best little torch you can find. I mean, I would like one. It would make it easier than trying to have a beam of light through your fingers, but it does work. So definitely, we're all about making do with what we've got, and that's a really easy way to do it. Really easy way. And of course, I always do the trick where you hold the opal up to the sun and look through it that way as well. But that doesn't work if you've got something like mintaby or a stone that's really in the rough and both sides are fully crusted. It does make it a lot harder. Trouble with opal is 90% is not gem grade. Very true. I wouldn't even say 90%. I would say, oh, like opal, gem opal, nice, clean, beautiful stuff that you can get good stones out of. It's definitely not 10%. It's way worse than even that. I mean, the more you spend, the more chance you've got of getting to that 10% or so. Well, you can really select strictly these days and be able to always buy gem, but you're always forking out a whole heap of money. But yeah, I buy most of my stone online though. I would like to buy it all in person, but I can't just run out to Riley Gunn and do that. Instead, what I can do is jump on Opal Auctions and have a look at his store and know what's there. And yeah, I reckon these days most opal would be bought and sold online. It's really taken off. And it's good because I think people are getting better at it. Like the listing, the selling, the buying, everyone is becoming more knowledgeable, and it's actually turning into quite a good industry. I think it'll be really good in a few years' time. I mean, it was rough. Like if you go back, even just like 2-3 years, like it was a rough kind of place. I did a few cleanups with a mate in Lightning Ridge, and his return of gem quality opal from each cleanup would be closer to 1%. Yeah, that's much more what I would think. Like saying anything higher than 1% is you've just hit a gold mine. Like the stuff is very rare. How much did you spend on your first parcel to practice with? I really like still a 250 price point. But of course, like you can spend 250 on a parcel that has 2 rough stones, or you can spend 250 on a parcel that has a whole bunch. I still think for 250 you can get a whole bunch of stones. Sure, 50% of it will be duds. It'll end up with nothing. So there's a bit of carat wastage there. But even with that carat wastage, when you're starting, it doesn't matter. It honestly does not matter. It's really good to work with the potch. The way that potch cuts and the way that precious opal cuts is most of the time very similar, like very close. Of course, working things like just ironstone with nice patterns in it is very different to working opal. It's completely different way to polish it and everything. You're going to have a rough time there. But for things like Kubapedi and stuff, you can carve potch, then pick up a gem, some gem grade stuff, and it will carve, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that feels right, that feels fine, I can cab this. So definitely in terms of potch, it's not the worst thing in the world. And another person did ask for me to do some more artistic carvings, maybe just with potch. So my secret miner over in Lightning Ridge has sent me over. So if you have a look at this, let's go, not that camera, this camera. I've got this big bag of massive chunks of Lightning Ridge potch, and I'm just going to carve these up into a few designs that I've got planned. Some of these chunky ones, I don't want to spoil it too much, but I am a big fan of chess. So there's going to be some chess pieces, there's going to be all sorts of stuff, because I've done a few and they're not good enough to show on the channel yet. Yeah, not good. But everything when you first start is not good. Just buy a cheap parcel, carve away. It'll help good opal feel nice to cut, and you'll make a lot of mistakes on potch and you'll never make them again, or you'll know to avoid them in the future. Do you think blackopaldirect sells his rough opal extremely overpriced? Does he actually sell much rough opal? Rough opal. Oh, okay. I haven't actually seen rough opal parcels from blackopaldirect for a while. Now, in terms of overpriced, it's like anything in life. Blackopaldirect is a strong brand name. But he's also a carver. Well, I mean, not a carver. He did do a carving. I love that video. He's a cutter. So a lot of the time you do have to wonder if a stone is being sold in the rough because he knows that it's not going to cut a gem. But having said that, for Justin at Black Opal Direct, he's got this business where he sells cut stones. If he buys in a whole bunch of rough parcels, he will pick out the stones that he wants to carve and, well, to cut and actually cut them. He doesn't have the time to go through and do every kind of stone that he buys in. If he can identify a layup win, a slam dunk, he's just going to do that one in the parcel. He's not going to spend his time checking out all of them. So if we just look at, I don't know, what's a, whatever the cursor's hovering over now, this one. It's a 300 carat rough parcel, 900 US, which right now is ridiculous because the exchange rate is killing everything. I can't even restock my Nova points without it being more expensive than what I sell them for. But see, looking at this, a lot of this does look like he's bought it in and he hasn't touched it up and looked at it. And there's definitely stones that are going to cut some nice crystal and the likes. And I think he's doing an okay job selling rough opal. He doesn't have time to cut all this. Even if I go back to that rough opal page, I mean, he does this full time and he doesn't have time to cut up all of this stuff. See, wavy thin bars, why is he going to keep that? He's not going to keep it. Even if that's going to cut a gem, he's not going to keep it because, I mean, we saw in his latest video where he did his carving, he doesn't seem like a big fan. He's not a big fan of carving and chasing these color bars. And like he said in his video, I don't know why he's selling this one, but he could easily just smack together a cab for this one and it would take him a very short amount of time. I just saw my camera freeze. It'll take him a very short amount of time to get a fully polished, beautiful cab out of that. With this, he could chase that with a Dremel and he might spend a day. And like he said, he had to go back in grits because he missed some scratches, and that's not because he's inexperienced, it's just because he's out of practice with the carving. He doesn't do a lot, and he probably knew going into it how much of a pain that video was going to be to make, because he knew he was going to have to go backwards in grits and all that kind of stuff. So it's, unless you do it all the time, you always go backwards in grit. I still go backwards in grit sometimes. Sometimes I have to go back to the 600 after finishing the 1200. It's very common I go back to the 600 for a second round. I mean, it happens fairly rarely now, but it still happens. Like, you just miss something every now and then. So, yeah, I mean, overpriced, depends on what your definition of overpriced is. Can you get rough of similar quality elsewhere for cheaper? Yeah. If you know the right people, more than likely, very easily. He's still marked these up from when he bought them rough as well. But I'm guessing he probably bought this as one massive bundle. He would be buying it in huge buckets worth and then just sifting through it and picking it out. I don't even know how he has time to sift through all the stuff that he buys to pick out the gems that he gets. Because, I mean, we just go to his black opals and you know he is, like, he's just getting killer stones. Like, he just gets these killer stones. And I haven't talked to him about it. And maybe I should. It would be nice to do an interview with him or something on the channel. But I haven't talked to him about it specifically. I would like to know how much kind of time he allows for certain parts. Like, cutting and polishing has to be his number one. I don't think he has anyone else that does the cutting and polishing. I think everyone else just mans the store, looks after the website, maybe looks after the YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. But how much time he commits to just sifting through rough, or whether he has someone else do it, it's yeah, it's very interesting because he's a busy man and he's full on. And to get gems like this on a regular basis is quite good. And I mean, we're looking at page 1. This is going to page 30. And like, the quality is just incredible. And you could say his cut stones are overpriced as well. It's brand name Opal. Is a big name in the field. Is huge, well known all over the place. So he'll, like anything, you can charge as much as people will buy it for. If it doesn't sell at 2,100 because it is truly overpriced, then he can lower the price and someone will buy it. But his stuff sells. His stuff sells, so it's not overpriced. How do you value doublets? I don't think it's like a clear-cut percentage loss from a solid equivalent. The way I value anything is I go to Opal auctions and have a look at similar looking stones, you can really search, you can nail down your search to kind of match what you're looking at buying, and then you can get a good value. Doublets, it is still much cheaper than a solid stone, so you are looking at a huge reduction. Not as bad as triplets. I mean, I hate the look of triplets in general, typically, like the magnified face, but yeah, it's half. Valuing half. It's hard. It's valuing anything in the opal world is tricky, and it really just comes down to what other people are selling it for. I mean, some people are good enough to be able to price whatever they want and just get it going. Yeah, doubles will normally fetch about 10 to 15% of a equal solid. Yeah, that's also another way to do it. You can just do an equivalent, but then you've got to know what the price of the equivalent solid would be, and then factor in the 10% kind of thing. So, yeah. Another person asked me what I was using when I stenciled. That rare time I stenciled, I used a red line. If I go over to my camera, so what I use when I am drawing on opals is one of two choices. I use, not sponsored once again, but it would be amazing, Sharpie. Sharpie is great if it's dry, if it's non-porous. If it's porous, then you end up getting texture deep in there, and you kind of don't want that, even though you want the pores gone anyway. Sometimes you don't get rid of the pores, like in Boulder Opal, and in which case the Sharpie will absolutely cause you massive amounts of pain, and you'll have to use a solvent to get it out of the pores and dab it in there, and yeah, it's a lot of effort. Sharpie. But the red, so the red I use when I've got a stone that's already wet, and if I zoom in, I don't know if the brand is famous or anything, but it's just called Right in the Rain. So I use a Right in the Rain. They sell it as a Right in the Rain pencil. It's kind of like, if I can get it in focus, it's kind of like a weird mix between a pencil and like a crayon, but I can draw on wet stones and put stencils on wet stones with this kind of thing. So it's most definitely not a graphite, I don't think. Or maybe it's got a small part of graphite. But it is like a crayon, but it's semi-waterproof. It will disappear as you're handling the stone in the water, but it does mean you can write on wet stones, which is something that the Sharpie really struggles with as well. So yeah, Right in the Rain. There's probably many equivalents, but this is what I was using that time, and a person picked up on it, and I didn't even think about it. I've just always used that one. Love how Roy does it underwater. Yeah, I like to. I mean, I just don't want to breathe silica dust. Also, because I'm not even really in a shed. Like, I'm in a garage with a single roller door kind of thing. So I really do need the dust to go down, especially because I got. Wait, so camera's here. I've got computer here. I've got monitor normally there. I've got another computer just over there, which will get sprayed with opal if I'm not careful. So over there. Like, I've got all this stuff going on around here, and then you can see in the background I got TV, I've got drum kit over here. I've got lots of stuff that I don't want to get covered in silica dust. So I don't want to breathe in the silica dust, and I also just don't want it to go everywhere. Don't want it to go everywhere. Oh, one person did say they want to know what stones look like under different stages of the loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video where I start with a gem that I've already polished, like fully polished, mirror polish. Maybe a cab. I've got a couple oh no, I don't want to mess up a calibrated cab. I'll just find a carving that I've done that's polished. And I'm actually going to go backwards. We're going to reverse carve this thing, so we can really look at what each grit does. I've got this, an entire bag of Nova points that range from 60 all the way through to 50,000, and because I really want to test those higher grit ones a lot more, I'm just going to go backwards. Might as well just go backwards, and we'll really see then. There's no chance of getting it mixed up and anything like that. We'll really know what each of those get to if I go backwards. I've got a few carvings that's okay to go backwards and do again. I'll just try to choose one that's not too uneven. So yeah, that will be, and then I'll show that under a loop. The loop I use, I actually don't know where it is. I knocked it off the table, and it's, I don't know, ended up in a different world, a different realm. But I have a loop that goes up to 60 times. People say 60 times is excessive, but I like to really, really know what's going on the surface of the stone. If it's smooth under 60 times, you've definitely mirror polished. But yeah, they are right in that if you look at it with the naked eye, you're never gonna see a scratch there that is appearing on the 60 times. But I do like to get it clean. If it's a really good gem, I will spend 3 hours to make sure that it's clean under a 60 times as well. Especially because I know my polishing powder can do better. So if I see something that I don't like the look of at 60 times, I don't like it. Ah, Bundy, how are you? Best cerium oxide available. Quality cerium at an affordable price. Man, written a better ad than me. But yeah, Bundy, I've sent one of my larger packages. So I can do bulk pricing and stuff as well. So though Bundy got mates rates and had a couple kilos sent their way, I'm happy to do that for anyone else as well. I'm already selling. So I sent out sample packs, funnily enough, of a lot of the cerium and aluminium oxide. The aluminium oxide has not been as popular as I thought it would be, but the cerium oxide, I'm almost out. I have to do another massive shipment, which is a pain because I pay in US dollars, and US dollars with Australian dollars is incredibly tough at the moment. So I'm delaying it for now, but I am gonna have to do it at some point. So it's going to be a little bit sad. I'm still embarrassed by how many cerium oxides I have tried, and I've still got lying around now that I've got mine and don't use any of those anymore. I mean, there's some good ones out there. The Blacklighters cerium oxide is actually really good. I mean, mine's only a tad better than that, and that's only because I've custom made it. And I mean, the Blacklighters aren't going to custom make their own cerium oxide. They've just found one that they really like, and there's a reason they like it. It is really good. It is really good. So if I'm all out, Blacklighters straight away, they do have the best cerium oxide. Not sure where they get it from, actually. They were going to let me know the supplier, but in the end, I just tested theirs and, 2 dozen other ones. Oh my God. So when I was developing it, I didn't have the time or the money to be able to get custom batches made multiple times. I just wanted to nail down what I found was the best, or what I thought was definitely going to be better, and then just get that one made. And I'm very happy that I got it right the first time, because it cost a lot to get it made for the first time. So for future batches, it'll be much easier and cheaper. But I wasn't going to do iterations over and over again. Small scale batches of cerium oxide by the manufacturer. It's way too expensive. I don't know how, maybe we'll just gauge what everyone here thinks. What would you guys think about there being a flat lap invading the channel for a bit? Well, permanently, but not like every video would become flat lap work. I will still do carving. Carving is where it's at, but there's an option to do quite a few videos with flat lapping, and it'll include a build. It'll include two builds, two flat lap builds. So that's also an interesting kind of thing to have on the channel, because like I'm not going to make a Dremel. I'm not going to make a rotary tool, and I'm not going to make a pendant motor or anything, but flat lapping, you can make one at home, and it can cost you a couple $100 ordering new parts and putting it together. Very little technical knowledge is required. As long as you understand how a motor spins and how water and electricity don't mix and stuff, you're pretty good. Carving is more time consuming, but it is relaxing for some. I mean, if you watch Justin's last video on blackopaldirect with his carving, I don't know if he would say it's relaxing. I think for him, the feelings were probably more frustration and why am I doing this? It's taking 100 times longer. He could have done a batch of stones in the time that he got that one done, I think. But you know what? He ended up with a great stone and he did a great job. And he's always very honest about it. He admitted that he went backwards in stages. That's surprising. It surprised me. I mean, not that much. He's always honest, and he's always going to say his cabbing wheels are better. So it is refreshing to see him do it and talk about that. On that note, I'll call it quits. Giveaway soon. Well, giveaway running. So giveaway running. Alright, we'll just do a quick giveaway thing. So there's a giveaway video on the channel But to get a bonus, well, you can enter by just commenting on that. But for bonus entry, if you just go to roserocks.com forum, filter by all posts, or you can be on categories. I think it opens up to categories, and then you just go to YouTube video ideas and either post something in there, or even better, just post it as a comment to the giveaway entries page. I've got it as the pinned one as well. If you go all posts, it should. It's not number one. Oh, because it's sorted by recent activity, but it's a pinned one, so it's always near the top. And you just chuck a comment in there, and your name goes in a spreadsheet twice instead of once. So there's a quick wrap up giveaway reminder. This is actually probably a good time for you guys to see the incredible clothing that I've received. Bloody hell, this is rough. You can already see the top of the shirt. This is quick intermission. That's I got this for the 30th. I didn't actually wear it on the. I didn't wear it on the cruise, but it's a hell of a shirt. Oh, Sharon Lewis with a "You Are Amazing," $20, incredible. But it may not be the most incredible thing in the world, and neither is this shirt, because what I'm wearing underneath it. God, this has turned into a strange show. What I'm wearing underneath it. Not sponsored yet, but I have sent KFC an email, and if they're interested, I'll wear this on all of my live streams from now on. It's going to be my summer singlet. It's just a singlet, but it's KFC is by far my number one fast food, just in case anyone wanted to know. So yeah, you can vote on which shirt is better. Me, I think the singlet is the winner. I don't really need a shirt that reminds me of my own face. Like, that's a little extreme. That's a little stupid. I wore it to work. It was a rough day. When you're not the best looking person in the world, you probably shouldn't wear a shirt that has your face plastered all over it. I've got one with my dog's face plastered all over it, and that one's cool. That one takes off, but not me. Not my face. Got more hair on your shirt. Yeah, I took this photo. That one there. All of my hair I had like just standing straight up. I don't know, I haven't had a lot of hair since PhD anyway. There's probably like here at the start of PhD, and then you get the doctor in front of your name and it's already like up to here somewhere. Then you start working and then it starts creeping back. And really, I'm just aiming to become Justin at blackopaldirect, so I clearly haven't gone far enough yet. It'll get there though. It'll get there.